What's going on, you guys? It's your boy Patrick, aka Addicted to Combat, back for another week of Best Bets and Props, where I go over all of my betting action for this weekend's UFC card, which is UFC Fight Night London. We've got Tom Aspinall returning after a year-long layoff to take on Tybura at heavyweight. Super fun. We've got a very fast-starting, powerful finisher in Tom Aspinall, who seems to be well-rounded and athletic. He takes on Tybura, who has been around the UFC for a long time, brings a lot of experience, and the guy has been on quite a streak, losing only one bout out of his last 8 at heavyweight. That's a very good feat in the UFC's heavyweight division, so it should be a fun clash there. We still have 15 fights on this card as it stands right now. I do expect some of these fights to possibly fall off after tomorrow's weigh-ins because we've got a lot of fighters making weight class changes. Never know how those go, and there's a handful of fighters that already barely make their weight class as it stands right now. So a lot of funny business to be had tomorrow at the weigh-ins. Hopefully things go as well as they possibly can. But I do have 3 moneyline picks that are all plus 100, even money or better. I've got 1 parlay and I've got 3 props that I'll go over here. I also have a couple of recommended plays at the end that I just didn't get to myself, but I do like as usual. I'm going to go through these pretty briefly. I like to keep this video short, but check out my full card breakdown I did on Tuesday, where I did a pretty deep dive on all 15 fights and how I see them playing out. And then check out last night's live stream with the great Tim Troiano, one half of the Lambeau Plays podcast with Narco Cop. And he's a very insightful guy when it comes to prop betting. He brings a very good wealth of information and just sports betting success to the stream. So we went into all 15 fights again, but from a gambling perspective. Who do we trust the most? How do we want to attack certain fights? Do we see it finishing under, over? So you can check out that stream. It was a very good one, and I always have a good time breaking down fights with Tim Troiano. So last time he was on my show, I did very, very well. We hit a lot of props and things like that, so hopefully he brought some good luck to the stream last night for this weekend's card. But man, we've had a pretty good run of it the past couple weeks. You know, a full sweep at UFC 290 a couple weeks ago. All except for 1 bet hit last week, and that was just our quarter unit sprinkle on the split decision. So it's been a pretty good streak. Let's try to make it 3 successful weeks in a row now. And make some profit. So we're going to start with the first fight of the night. I have my first money line on Daniel Barez at 125. He takes on Jafel Filho. Again, first fight of the prelims. These ones usually are placed there for a reason. I think this is going to be a very good fight, but I'm taking the underdog money on Daniel Barez, plus 105, just for a 1-unit shot on him. He is a 34-year-old flyweight, so we have to take note of that, but he looks very, very fast. He's going to have a marked striking advantage in this fight. Roasts people to the body with his boxing. Very aggressive, a come-forward style, and he's way more high output and busier, but he brings a pretty good skill set coming out of the Entram gym on the mat, and that's what he's going to need against Jafel Filho, who's a Nova União BJJ black belt, and we saw his grappling on display against Muhammad Mokaev in his debut. So Barez, as long as he can keep us on the feet, I know he's got pretty good wrestling. He does like to do, some submission work himself. But if he can stay out of harm's way on the mat, I think he's going to have a very good time outstriking Jafel Filho, having better cardio and much better power as well, possibly getting the finish. He has finished 13 of 16 wins, has Daniel Barez. So as far as debuting fighters go, as far as guys on this fight card that are closely lined, I think this is a great underdog here. So plus 105 for 1 unit on Barez. I believe a lot of books, it's either plus 105, even money, or a pick-em price tag at this point. So I do like Daniel Barez here, 1 unit at plus 105. The next fight I have a bet on is another plus money tag here. This is plus 100 I got on Johnny Parsons to defeat Danny Roberts at welterweight. Now, this is another debuting fighter here, oddly enough. I'm trusting a lot of these debuting guys off the Contender Series. A little bit nerve-wracking on this one because Johnny Parsons has been out of the cage for 2 years. And again, when he was on the Contender Series, very close back-and-forth fight with Solomon Renfro. He won a controversial split decision, but it was largely because of the optics. He showed very good durability in round 1, lost that round badly, and then came back in round 2 and round 3 and kind of overwhelmed Solomon Renfro. Very good Muay Thai striker is Johnny Parsons. He's a Muay Thai coach out west in the States. And he's still 31 years old, a nice switch stance fighter. And he closes distance very, very quickly, which he's going to have to do because he's at a size disadvantage. A 5'9" fighter, and Parsons taking on Danny Roberts, who's kind of a true welterweight at 6'1". But Danny Roberts, man, his durability is not very good. So losing, I think, 4 times by knockout, twice by submission. He's a guy who, even in the fights where he makes it to the scorecards, he gets hurt, and he's on wobbly legs in a lot of fights I've seen. So I think Johnny Parsons is going to come in here and actually start very fast, close that distance, and find the chin of Danny Roberts, who at close range, Roberts does not eat damage well, and he can kind of be less technical than he is when he's at range. So as long as Parsons comes in aggressive and confident, I think he gets the job done. Just 1 unit on him at plus 100. That price tag is still out there for Johnny Parsons. And I know it's not a very popular pick this week, but I do have a prop that will cover both sides as we move forward. But I do have one more underdog pick here. This is the biggest one. Not a huge underdog, but it is a plus 118 tag for 2 units of a bet here on Davey Grant to defeat Daniel Marcos. Now, Davey Grant, finally a departure from the other 2 moneyline bets I have where they're debuting fighters. This guy has 10 years of experience in the UFC's octagon, where he's had a well-rounded skill set as well. He used to be more of a wrestler and offensive grappler. Now he's kind of standing and striking with guys, but doing quite well. Even at 37 years old at bantamweight, this guy is extremely durable, never been knocked out before, and spending 10 years in the UFC is a pretty good feat to never be knocked out. He has been submitted a few times in the UFC, but Daniel Marcos brings a very good striking game. He's got 8 knockouts, and he's 14-0 as a 30-year-old prospect here making his second walk to the cage. He defeated a grappler in his last fight, but Daniel Marcos, very unproven, and with these young guys with 14-0 records, undefeated records, a lot of times they're used to their opponents wilting under their pressure, and when they face a guy as durable as Davey Grant that has seen much better competition, much better prospects, they've kind of been there, done that, and they don't fold as the fight goes on. They don't fold when they get hit in the face by kicks and punches in round 1. That can be a very mentally damaging thing for a young undefeated prospect when Davey Grant just keeps on marching you down, and he's got a very good ability to come back later in the fight. So I like Davey Grant here at plus 118. Look, I understand the risk that Daniel Marcos could be the real deal, and he looks like he's got a good skill set. But I'm taking I like this aspect of betting when I can get plus money on a gritty veteran who I know a lot about, taking on a guy in Daniel Marcos who we still have yet to see his weaknesses fully exposed. So give me Davey Grant to win by decision here, mixing in, wrestling, mixing in good cardio and good strikes. And again, he wins punches from weird angles. And I think he could possibly, do some really good damage on Marcos and steal this in the later parts of the fight. So plus 118 on Davey Grant. 2 full units on that underdog pick. So that covers all the money lines I have. I do have 3 props as well. Just to go back to the Danny Roberts, Johnny Parsons fight, just in case Johnny Parsons, kind of drops the ball here, Danny Roberts is just as able to capitalize on scoring on knockout. He's a good kickboxer. He's finished 13 of his 18 fights, but he also has lost 6 of 7, as I mentioned, by stoppage. Well, Johnny Parsons, he's finished 6 of his 8 fights in victory by knockout, and he's lost by knockout in 2 of his 3 losses. And Johnny Parsons, he's had his debut delayed because he's had some concussion symptoms, didn't get medical clearance. So I'm taking the under 2.5 in this fight at minus 130 for 1 unit on that. That way, if Johnny Parsons wins, like I think he will by knockout, he'll most likely cash that under 2.5 as well. Will cash twice. But if Danny Roberts can, shut the lights out of Johnny Parsons, kind of, expose him as a newcomer that just wasn't ready after a long layoff, we can also get our money back partially and cash this under. So the under 2.5, Parsons Roberts at minus 130, 1 unit on that bet. The next under I have, another violent spot here, is the under 2.5 with Andre Muniz and Paul Craig at middleweight. 1 unit at minus 220. And I think there's some sportsbooks you can get a better line, like a minus 200 on this under 2.5. But I jumped on it a little bit early on the wrong book. So 1 unit at minus 220 for the under 2.5. 2 finishers, 2 killer-be-killed grapplers going at it. And we got Paul Craig dropping down from 205 to middleweight for the first time in his career, which is a little confusing how he's going to lose 20 pounds, but that's one of those fights to watch on the scales as well. Andre Muniz is a sizable favorite here because he's got better BJJ when it comes down to just the sport of it. He's got better striking, and he's got a better ability to wrestle as well. So it's up to Andre Muniz to not get clipped by something crazy in the early going of the fight when Paul Craig has cardio. It's up to Andre Muniz to not get caught in a triangle choke on the mat when he's getting sloppy and he tires out later in the fight. But I think Andre Muniz can stop Paul Craig, who man, Paul Craig has got a 100% finish rate in all 16 of his wins. They're by stoppage. He's lost 5 of 6 by stoppage as well. Andre Muniz, 100% finish rate in his losses, and he's won 19 of 23 wins by stoppage. So, I mean, just amazing stats for these guys to have such long careers at this point, and most of them are not seeing the scorecard. So the under 2.5 is favored for a reason, but I'm taking a 1-unit stab on that at minus 220. I think somebody does die. I think it's probably Paul Craig, but, just in case he gets something crazy, early in this fight. And honestly, if you want to find a sports book where you get all 15 minutes, I'm just taking the route where it's 12.5 minutes, right? It's the under 2.5. I mean, how many times have we seen Paul Craig pull off something in round 3? I mean, the Magomed Ankalaev fight comes to mind where it was at the last second of round 3. So maybe you want to take that fight doesn't go to decision and get yourself that extra 2.5 minutes. But I'm playing it safe. I'm playing a little bit less safe here and just taking that 2.5 at the price I got. So I think Muniz gets it done pretty quickly there. The other prop I have is just kind of an insurance policy for a bet I have later on, but it is in the co-main event at women's flyweight. I'm taking Julia Stoliarenko to win by round 1 submission at plus 675. And God bless FanDuel, they have that same prop, round 1 submission for Stoliarenko at plus 800 still. And taking on Molly McCann. McCann has the better striking. She's got the better experience. She's got the better cardio, better toughness. She's in her hometown crowd here. She should get the finish and get the knockout within 1 or 2 rounds. But Julia Stoliarenko is a one-dimensional fighter, but that dimension is very good. She's got 9 finishes out of her 10 wins, all by submission, all by round 1 armbar. So that is really just her signature move. She just can latch onto wrist control and position her hips correctly if you get into her guard. But her cardio is kind of lacking. Her durability and striking defense lacking. So the only way I see her winning this fight is by that round 1 armbar. The only way she's really proven to win a fight. It's almost like picking Jordan Wright to win by round 1 knockout. It's just something that you do that becomes their money line. So I'm taking that for 0.2 units, plus 675, round 1 sub for Stoliarenko. But I think Molly McCann gets it done. So for my parlay of this card, I have 2.5 units at minus 121 combined parlay odds on Tom Aspinall to defeat Marcin Tybura, and I've got Molly McCann defeating Stoliarenko. So 2.5 units at minus 129. That would, what would that get you? That would get you 1.94 units of profit if you do the math on that. So, kind of a juiced up parlay with Tom Aspinall being like a minus 400 to minus 450 favorite here. Molly McCann somewhere around minus 190 to minus 220. Not crazy about either of those two money lines, so I feel guilty about putting them together in a parlay, but I think that they're two of the most confident picks on this card. Two people that they're kind of positioned to win if you really look at their bouts. Tom Aspinall, way younger, way more explosive and dangerous than Marcin Tybura. And Tom Aspinall has beaten better people than Tybura already. He beat, Alexander Volkov, just bum rushed him to the ground and straightened out his arm for the submission. Marcin Tybura, lost the 3-round decision with Volkov. So just using that as a measuring stick, you can see the difference in speed and finishing ability of Tom Aspinall. Molly McCann, I went through that fight against Stoliarenko. Think she wins pretty easily. So I probably will end up adding some other spots onto that parlay and fleshing it out to a 4, 6, and possibly longer parlay. But the main parts I would put on here after the weigh-ins would be I'm very confident in Makhmud Muradov to defeat Brian Barberena. I'm confident in Nathaniel Wood to defeat Andre Fili. So if I'm getting degenerate with this, I would just put on those two fighters onto the Aspinall-McCann one. So making it a 4-fight parlay, I'll write on the screen, would be somewhere around like plus 250. I would just put like 0.75 units on that to win roughly 1.8. And then if I want to put the next confident fighters on, I would put Andre Muniz and Lerone Murphy, who I'm confident in, for a 6-leg parlay. That would be about plus 750 combined odds. I'd put like 0.25 units, just a quarter unit on that. That way, as long as the Aspinall and McCann parts of that hit, will be profitable, and we're kind of free-rolling into the 4- and 6-leg parlay. And, I always drop my TikTok or my YouTube short of like the order of confidence for all 15 fights. So I would probably extend that out and just throw like lunch money. Since we've got such a long card, you'll only need, if you're doing like an 8-leg, a 10-leg, a 12, 14, 15-leg parlay on this, you're only going to need like $5 to $10. And if you hit all of it, you're cashing in pretty big. So might see how far it can go on that. I'm going to do the live fight companion with Johnny K. Picks and some other guys on Saturday. So just to spice that up, maybe I'll be checking these off and seeing how many picks we can get correctly and chained in a parlay. But it won't be much money. It's going to be like lunch money. But I probably will have Aspinall McCann. Of course, I have that one locked in at 2.5 units. I'll have the Muradov Wood at 0.75 units, and I'll have the Muniz and Murphy one at 0.25 units. I haven't put those in yet, but that's how I would do it. And then just throw lunch money on the rest of it. So, yeah, I mean, those are all the main plays I have. The miscellaneous props I like is Makhmud Muradov inside the distance, I think is a good price, around that plus 125 to plus 150, chopping that down from his minus 350 money line. Aspinall, if you want to same-game parlay him in round 1 or round 2 to get the knockout, which I think is his likeliest path, that's about minus 130 on DK. And then Jai Herbert and Fares Ziam, I think that one's going to play out maybe slower paced and a little bit close. I think that will go to decision, or at least over 2.5, which is at minus 150. So I like that one for those guys. I was trying to figure out which fights I thought would be close enough to be a split decision. The Fares Ziam and Jai Herbert one came to mind, but also the Murphy and Kulabau one possibly could go to split. Both guys have just such a long history of having close fights. But we also have Ketlin Vieira and Pandy Kianzad. That one could also be a split decision candidate. So whichever of those you think, if you're feeling like you want to, gamble a little bit better and throw like a plus 350 to plus 550 bet on your slate for the fight to go to split. Those are the three that myself and Tim Troiano last night really thought might have a chance of going to split. So yeah, that's all the betting action, you guys. Make sure you hit the like, hit the subscribe. Make sure you drop a comment down below on what your most confident fighters and bets are for this card. I always love hearing how other people are making money. I'm no expert. I do this just because I love the game. I love mixed martial arts, so I try to bring the best people onto the streams I possibly can, and we've got such a smart community, and all of my subscribers are awesome at dropping their opinions on the live chat in the comments, so I really do value what you guys have to say. So drop a comment. Tell me how you plan to make money, and yeah, enjoy the fights. Join me on Johnny K. Picks' channel on Saturday, and let's watch the fights together, you guys, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Cheers.